Well, hello everyone. Today I wanted to just quickly share with you a Christmas present that I received just this past Christmas. And before I go into it, I just want to kind of set the stage here. So, somebody who researches, particularly we'll say genealogy, and we all know the frustrations of trying to figure out, number one, family names and family members that are associated. Number two, sometimes the information on that family member is quite limited. And when we do research, we all want to try to get to know who our family members were, anywhere from our great grandparents to our great great grandparents and so on and so forth. Today, when we go onto social media, for example, say Facebook, we have our circle of friends and family that we are so-called friends with. And on those social media platforms, a lot of times we share what we want people to see, not necessarily share things for everyone in the world to read. So even with social media, it does kind of record our lives, particularly when you go through your memories and you see photographs from 10 years ago and you can see how far you've aged, as well as you can almost watch your kids, if you have any, grow up right in front of you when you go through your memories on, say, Facebook. Well, my son picked up this book here for all of us in the family. And this one here in particular, it's called Dad, I Want to Hear Your Story. And it's by hearyourstory.com. The author is Jeffrey Mason. And it's a father's guided journal to share his life and his love. What I love about this, number one, I appreciate getting Christmas presents that I have to work on. But aside from that, what I really appreciate about this is that I have to go back on 45 years of my life in order to fill this out. And what's really unique about this is as my son has kids and their kids have kids and their kids have kids, say 100 years from now, at least half of my life is already going to be recorded in this book. And this is really cool because it asks a lot of questions. That way it paints a very vivid story as to who you are. So if you were playing in a movie that was basically named after you, you're the main character, this tells the story. And it's pretty cool because like on page 2, for an example, it asks, it's your birthday. So there's several questions that are being asked. You know, for an example, what is your birth date? What was your full name? Where were you born? And so on and so forth. And it also asks questions about, you know, how did your parents describe you as a baby? Growing up, same thing. Describe yourself, you know, when you were a kid. Did you have any nicknames, for an example? And that even has areas in between that are called dad trivia. So like for an example, this here asks for my favorite flavor of ice cream, how do I like my coffee, down to how did I like my eggs being cooked? What was my shoe size? Teenage years. This one here ought to be pretty interesting. Your work and career. You know, I've been working in the history field for more than 20 years, but before that, I was a mechanic, plus I worked in a factory. Describe, here's another area here, family tree. But here it asks you about your parents and grandparents, and you can answer questions like, what is your favorite memory of your mother? What was your favorite memory of your father? To what your mom's maiden name was, to what you know, describe their relationship. Who your mom's parents were, as well as your dad's parents. Siblings. I might actually need more paper for this because I'm basically one of 7. I have 5 stepsisters and 1 biological brother. But it asks all kinds of questions in here that you can answer, like, are you the only child or do you have siblings? Are you the oldest, middle, or the youngest? List out your siblings' names in order currently to their ages. What was it like if you had children? So what was it like when you became a father? Let's talk about your kids. So This is an area here where you can kind of get back at your kids a little bit, all the way down to what your spiritual and religion preferences were. For me, when I was a young kid, we started out as a Catholic, but then once my parents got a divorce, I became a Baptist. Love and romance. So, do you remember who you received your first kiss from, for an example, or who was it, or what age were you when you went on your first date? So some of the stuff here, your other spouse may not appreciate, but travel. Did you travel anywhere? For me, I've been all over the East Coast, and I've been as far as west as North Dakota, but I've been all the way into Canada. Some of these things that my children probably don't even know. Bucket lists, down to movies, television, what type of music you liked, what kind of books did you read as a kid. For me, I've always loved heavy metal, and I love bluegrass, and I love the older style country, and I love blues. What were some of my top 10 movies? I guarantee you the Blues Brothers will be in here, Smokey and the Bandit will be in here, as well as the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Top 10 songs, So this is really cool because this really makes you explore who you are currently, going back through your past. And it'd be kind of cool because when I'm finished with this, let's just say 20 years from now, I'm asked to do a part 2 of this. This is a pretty cool and interesting and a unique way to tell your story on how you're going to be remembered. And I can't wait to go into this and actually start filling it out. Again, they have several variations of these, but this one here is called Dad, I Want to Hear Your Story, a father's guided journal to share his life and his love. And it's by Jeffrey Mason. This is really cool, and this was a good idea. And the reason why I'm just passing this along is because hopefully somebody out there that watches this, and particularly in our area, maybe they'll go ahead and order these and start donating these to us as well. That way we can have your story. Until then, my friends, a lot of really cool events coming up. Go to the ShippensburgHistoricalSociety.org, check them out, or just come on in here and let's chit chat about history. Either way, I'll be seeing you all